Alrighty, morning. Another beautiful June morning and working on the buggy. So today's agenda is going to be putting these L&W arms in. Finally got a bushing kit. This is a performance side-by-side A-arm bushing kit. Had to go to the hardware store, get some hardware. Being that we're not parting out the machine, got to source every single bolt, it seems like. But so the plan is to put these bushings in these arms, get them mounted on the chassis itself, put a axle cup or two in that diff, and figure out spacing and height as far as angle and all that. I'm thinking something around the lines of running some kind of a bracket from here to the steering rack mount, blasting a few holes in it for these bolts once we figure out how to place it. Per his little instructions deal, it says to get the arms mounted and then put an axle cup or axle in either side, space it 1/4 inch off the bottom of the lower A-arm. So that's what we're going to try to do, figure out, like I said, which way that pinion needs to be angled and how close or how far we can get it from the steering rack. Ideally, there is enough room to where you can pull the diff out the front, which would be super nice if we ever do have to pull the diff. But again, with the mounting and how high it's going to be and angle and all that stuff, I'm not really sure. So we'll start by getting these bushings in these arms, and then mount 1 or 2 of these arms up and kind of start playing with it. We'll probably pick up there, to be honest with you. I don't need to show you how to push bushings and arms. All right, quick little update for you guys. Where we're at is we got the arms mounted. We ended up just knocking these tacks out, mounting the arms, putting a washer between there just to gap the spacing a little bit better. That way the arms can come in and out a little bit easier. Once they're fully welded, they're going to heat shrink a little bit. So we did that with the upper, the lowers. We got the Kellers in the arms. We got the hubs on, or the knuckles. We got, I think these are rear axles, so they're not quite long enough, but we got axles in it. So what we're working on doing is we're going to space that axle cup, put a piece of plate under there, 1/4 inch, up off the arm, 1/4 inch. And then we're going to take this plate here and build some kind of a mount. We're going to run a strap from here, one ear to the other ear of the diff on both sides, and then tie it in up here to get the diff mounted up out of the way. And then we'll have the next step done as far as to measure drive shaft and get one of those ordered. But yeah, it's really starting to look like something. The arms were pretty easy, like I said. We pushed those bushings in and then just kind of in and out 3-4 times, making sure we got the spacing for the mounts correct. Tack them in place once we liked where they were. Yeah, nothing really more to it. It's just kind of plugging away little stuff. Once we get the diff mounted, like I said, we can measure for the drive shaft, A, and B, we can start playing with the shock tab mounting for the upper. So what he says to do is take your machine, full droop it, get your axle angle, and go like 2 or 3 degrees back of whatever that angle is to get the axle pitch, the incline, the angle that they're going to be at full droop. So we'll have to get this up in the air to place shock, which I'm not too sure if it's going to mount to this bar here, the shock yet, or if we're going to have to bend another bar. But either way, this is a big step, getting the diff mounted. Drivetrain will be pretty much done other than the carrier bearing at that point. So we'll get that diff mount knocked out, show you what that guy looks like once it's done. All right, it's a new day. Little update, little progress, little filling you in on what we've all done. So behind the camera here, we got the arms on like was in the last clip, but now the diff is suspended. So we ended up making this mount, and I know it's not the most aesthetically pleasing mount, but we've had to move it 3-4 times, so that's why it's turned out the way it has. Trying to get these axle cups up off this A-arm. So The issue we were having is these axles, obviously they have some play. The clip right here that holds the boot on, let me get you guys in camera here, was hitting that arm. And now you can see it's got clearance, and it's got clearance on both ends. The only issue with how we have it mounted right now is this bolt. The flange for it is right there, and it is hitting that arm. Now, it's not the biggest deal in the world, but to get that diff bolt out, you would have to pull the A-arm. It's kind of a pain in the butt. I mean, the ease, we want ease of working on this thing and the ease of pulling a diff. You know, Razor diffs are junk. You know, they make hill killer diffs, and they make, Sandcraft makes a bulletproof kit, and people are still breaking diffs. And if I break a diff, I want to have it pretty easy to swap out. I don't want it to ruin a trip. Not that it currently does in a stock Razor, but if we could make that process easier on pulling the diff, that'd be great. Just have a spare diff in the trailer, swap one out in an hour or whatever. But so I think the remedy for this issue that I'm having going on is to buy a piece of M12 all thread, nut both sides of it, just cut the all thread to length, nut both sides with a washer or whatever, or a flange nylon nut. That way you can just blast that all thread with snake underneath that arm. So I think that's the solution for that issue. So this might be the final form of this diff. Like I said, it's a little tight in here. We might end up grinding it down a little bit. I mean, you can see there's the smallest clearance in the world there. So we might grind that down once we pull the diff out. And the pinion is angled pretty good. It's pretty straight on. It's hard to tell. So we shouldn't have any weird issues, like I said. We're planning on running a 2-piece drive shaft, stock style, bigger U-joints. The overall diameter of it might be a little bit bigger too. The material's better. And a stock rubber carrier bearing out of a turbo, like I mentioned previously. So we've contacted some people on getting one of those built. That's kind of the next step. I mean, we keep running into issues where we get one thing done and we need parts or we need bolts or whatever. I mean, we're not parting out a machine, so we don't have a donor for every little thing. So it's like you get one thing done and it's like, oh shoot, we need this. Oh crap, we need that. We're having to run across town to get hardware, this and that. So trying to stay ahead of that so that we don't run into that is hard. I mean, you're having to predict what you're going to need, which, I mean, I got a list going on that whiteboard over there. So hopefully I'm going to get ahead of a few things so that we can really, you know, jam some stuff out. Kind of move this forward pretty quickly. But I also got a rear radius rod plate ordered so that we can get the radius rods in with the trailing arms. And then we can start working on the shock mounts. I need springs for these dynamic shocks, these live Fox shocks. I don't know if I've showed you guys that, but I need springs for them, and I need like the little perch that holds the spring in, locks them in. So that's the next step, is getting that so that we can start figuring out the tabs for the shock. I said in the last clip that we were gonna go maybe to this bar. That's not gonna work. So it's going to go from this tab and it's going to shoot snake underneath this bar here to another bar that's probably, there's going to be one that ties these two front bars together and then two that shoot off to go into a dash bar. It'll probably have a tab off of that bar that we end up bending to shoot back to the dash bar. It's like 13 inches from tab to tab. And then there's some science and nerdy, geeky stuff behind axle angles. You gotta full droop your machine, and I said in the last clip, so we don't necessarily understand that. I don't personally, so once I get there, I'll explain it to you guys. I guess I understand the concept behind it, but how to do it, I guess, is to be determined. We gotta go through with that. So anyhow, that's how that front's gonna be. The back is going to probably go to this B pillar, that pole there or tube there, and shoot down to the trailing arm is my thought. So, but yeah, once we get the springs and the perches, we can kind of start mocking that up. We can start bending some tube. I'm looking forward to that. That's probably what I'm most excited for, is kind of, you know, getting some bars thrown in this thing, because it's already looking, it's crazy. There's not a ton to these things. So you throw a set of arms on it and put a diff in it, and it looks like a machine, you know? I mean, it's pretty wild. So, but I'm looking forward to that. That's the next step, I guess you'd say. Now, you know, I filmed this clip the next day because I put in like 9 hours yesterday on that machine, and I was just kind of exhausted. And it's just like, I was watching some of the clips and they're just kind of like, they're kind of boring, just, you know, explaining what we're doing, which I don't know how I can be more entertaining for you guys. I don't know if it's, you know, you guys want to see us actually, you know, welding and plasma torching and, you know, hammering these bolts in and out and figuring it out and talking and kind of discussing it as we go, or if you just want updates as we're doing it. But either way, you'll just have to let me know. I'm documenting it. I think this is the best route after watching back some of the clips I've taken. I mean, I made this clip twice now, once the day of, and then now the next day, because the first time I made it, it just sucked. So, but you'll have to let me know if you enjoy the fabrication, seeing the process, or if you just like the small updates like this as we're going. I know personally watching it, this is the route I prefer, but you'll have to let me know on that. So yeah, we'll get some parts ordered. And next video, hopefully there's some real big progress on the chassis build we got going on. But yeah, stay tuned. It's going to get interesting. I mean, it should be, you know, really coming together over these next few videos. I mean, that already has made a huge impact, like I just said. So I'm rambling. Anyhow, thanks for watching, and we will see you guys in the next video.